This one creeps me out. He's giving me some sort of interplanetary.
I love this one too.
There's new rules on Instagram for teens. Meta, which owns the app, announced teen accounts, and it's for users 18 and under and will automatically make any new and existing accounts private. So you have to approve new followers before they can see anything you post. Instagram also said it's limiting notifications for anyone 18 and under, meaning no alerts between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. If you're under 16, you're going to need a parent or guardian's permission to change those restrictions. Plus, parents can now see who's messaging their children, and you can't get messages from accounts you don't follow. We've talked before about new laws around social media and kids in some states like New York and Florida. And back in June, the Surgeon General said it's time for platforms to come with warning labels of its effects on young people. The update has already started with new accounts, and existing accounts will see changes in the next 2 months in the US and globally by January. YouTube has also been changing its policies, creating a supervised experience where teens and parents can link their accounts in their Family Center hub, so parents can see what their kids are up to on the app. Snapchat already has something like this. We want to know, what do you think about all these restrictions? Is it too much? Is it not enough? Do you wish your parents weren't involved? Leave us a comment below.
Sticking to the topic of social media, TikTok had a big day in court, and a decision on whether or not the app could be banned here in the US is supposed to be made by December 6th. Quick refresher, President Joe Biden signed a bill in April that would ban TikTok, an app owned by the Chinese company ByteDance, if the company does not sell the platform by January 19th. Then TikTok sued the US government, calling the law unconstitutional. The case finally got in front of a group of judges in Washington, D.C. last week. 3 judges listened to the arguments for 2 hours. Let's get into what each side said. The U.S. Justice Department argued TikTok poses a national security threat due to its Chinese ownership and access to Americans' personal data.
There is so much happening in China outside the control of the United States that it poses a grave national security risk.
TikTok claimed the government failed to prove those threats in the lawsuit, arguing the law violates the First Amendment's free speech rights.
For the first time in history, Congress has expressly targeted a specific U.S. speaker, banning its speech and the speech of 170 million Americans.
Both TikTok and the Justice Department have asked for a ruling by December 6th. After that, the Supreme Court could get involved if either side wants the decision to be reviewed. And as always, we'll keep you updated, so make sure you're subscribed.
Tensions between Israel and Hezbollah are heating up, and there's been a lot of destruction and death over the last week. Earlier this week, after warning civilians to evacuate before they fired, Israel launched rockets across its northern border into Lebanon. According to Lebanon's health ministry, hundreds were killed and more were injured. Monday's attack was in response to Hezbollah's airstrike into Israel over the weekend. Israel said it was able to stop most of the rockets and no one died. The strikes have continued all week. But who is Hezbollah? Backed by Iran, Hezbollah is both a political party and an armed group in Lebanon. The United States classifies Hezbollah as a terrorist organization like Hamas. It was founded in 1982 during the country's civil war in an effort to push Israeli forces out of the country. But the escalation between the two has been building since October 7th, when Hezbollah began firing rockets into Israel in support of Gaza. But the fighting intensified last week after hundreds of pagers and walkie-talkies used by Hezbollah all exploded at the same time over 2 days. Israel's not taken responsibility for the coordinated attack, but it's believed they were behind it. There's growing concern this renewed fighting will lead to a broader war in the Middle East. The European Union has called for an immediate ceasefire, and the U.S. sent a, quote, small number of troops into the region.
All this is happening while about 140 world leaders are gathered here in New York for the United Nations General Assembly meeting. This isn't all of the UN. The General Assembly is actually only one of 6 parts of the UN. During the meeting, they are expected to work together to discuss issues that affect all member countries and decide how there can be peace, security, and cooperation between nations.
There are 193 member nations, and each nation has an equal vote on resolutions presented. The president changes each year and is nominated by the Assembly. This year's session is focused on advancing peace, sustainable development, and human dignity, and is called the Summit of the Future.
Obviously, NYC is the place to be this week because we're also in the middle of Climate Week. It's the biggest annual climate event of its kind. Over 600 events bring people together from all ages all over the world to talk about what we need to do to combat climate change. Climate change is long-term shifts in temperature and weather patterns, which creates more intense heat waves, sea level rise, and melting glaciers.
And this year's theme at Climate Week NYC, it's time. It's all about action. They say, quote, it's time to push towards unstoppable progress to triple renewable capacity and double energy efficiency. Renewable capacity is from power plants or installations that use renewable energy, and renewable energy comes from natural sources like wind and sunlight. It's often referred to as clean energy. This kind of energy is constantly replenished because it's all around us. And being energy efficient is when you figure out how technology can use less energy to provide the same function. Like this fusion reactor model that my buddy Chili was building here.
Supposed to make clean energy by using the energy from the sun and make plasma inside it so it can like power a bunch of different things.
They say it's time to lead. So how are you leading the way?
How are you?
Well, for one, I like recycling because I find breaking down cardboard boxes to be like really relaxing.
That's real. I don't keep plastic water bottles in my house.
But what are you doing to protect the climate? Tell us below.
Let's stay on climate change. So, Larry, as the planet gets hotter, where do you think all of that excess heat goes?
Well, I assume it goes into the ground because the sun beats on the ground and then they say heat rises, so then we feel the heat when it comes out of the ground.
I love your answer, but it's incorrect. It's absorbed into the ocean, about 91% of it. The Ocean Photographer of the Year Awards celebrates the Earth while highlighting how fragile it is. And get this, anyone can enter, professional or amateur photographers. But first place went to a pro who captured this whale just before devouring a heart-shaped bait ball in Mexico. This picture beat out over 15,000 submissions.
Second place was taken off the Isle of Nass near Scotland and shows a northern gannet, a big seabird from the UK diving in to catch its prey. When I first saw this, I thought it was like an actual human diver.
Yeah, I thought it was a diver too.
The wings look like legs.
Third place actually has humans. A fishing boat in Vietnam was giving off smoke, perfectly lining up with the green netting below. It truly looks like lasers to me. I love this one. I love the colors. It's gonna inspire my next outfit.
But that's not all. The awards have a special category for young photographers under the age of 25. The winner, this rare algae octopus in Indonesia, which becomes fluorescent underneath ultraviolet light. This one creeps me out. It's giving me some sort of interplanetary spooky ghost thing.
I love
Spooky
this
alien.
one too. In Hawaii, a lizardfish that looks almost invisible if it weren't for its catch sticking out of its mouth.
And while these look like twins, this is actually one California moray eel checking out its reflection as the tide goes. This blew my mind.
This looks like rubber gloves.
But if you've got any wildlife photos of your own, whether on land or in the water, or just with your pet, send them in and maybe you'll see them on the show.
I had a time talking to Ava the S.T.E.M Princess. She's an 11-year-old using science to change the world. Make sure you check out the interview on our channel.